Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Alright, so a monumental video today. The whole collection. I guess I could call this the State of the Collection 2018. And it's monumental because I've never actually done a video of my whole collection. And I've never had all three of my Rolexes in the same video, so kind of a special day for the channel. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so I've got the white gloves on, and this is pretty much the collection as the whole, but I don't really conceptualize my collection like this. I actually think of my collection as 3 or 4 sub-collections. And so instead of going through chronologically what pieces I got, I'll sort of cover those 3 or 4 main subgroups. And the first subgroup I'll talk about, I'll kind of work my way up, is the Seiko 5s over here. Okay, so kind of like a mini Seiko 5 collection, and they stay together. Well, let me start with this one because it was the first one I got. When I say they stay together, I sort of keep them together. They just sit in a row, much like you see them here. This was the first Seiko 5 that I got, and again, this is not in chronological order. Okay, first Seiko 5, probably my favorite Seiko 5. You've seen it many times, so there's not much to say about it. I love the bracelet, very comfortable, and really a pretty mint watch. And this was the second Seiko 5 that I got. I think this was the second, or no, maybe it was the other one. But anyway, I got them about the same time. In fact, I think I ordered them probably the same day. Just another Seiko 5, kind of another variation of what you just saw. This is a little bit more used. You got a lot of hairline scratches. Similarly priced. I got the one you saw prior for about $40. Got this one for about $40. This one I think was a little bit more expensive, which is ironic because it's not quite as in good nick as the first one. But you can see it's a lot of hairline scratches. It's definitely been used, and it definitely had a previous life. Like the Delphine hands, that's kind of one of the things I like about it. I like the 6, 9, 12 hour markers, and it's got a nice white dial. It doesn't have the crown at the 4, which is kind of interesting. Usually Seiko 5s have the crown at the 4. That's sort of a characteristic of Seiko 5s. And the chronograph. So this is the third Seiko 5 in the 3 Seiko collection. And let's see what was going before. Let me get this watch going a little bit. The Seiko Shuffle, I hear this is called. Okay, there we go. The Seiko Shuffle. Brandon, when he was up here, told me about that term. Okay, so this is a flyback chronograph. And what can I say about this watch? It's odd because it doesn't have a totalizer. It's a 1970s watch. It's in pretty good nick. I've seen pictures of the back off, and it's it's got a really clean movement. I'm not into this watch. I kind of want to sell this watch, so this isn't a formal announcement. But if this is a watch you're interested in, then I could be very easily made to part with it. Why don't I like it? The 70s style case was something I kind of thought was cool at first, but I don't know, it sort of grates on me now. I don't like those shoulders there. Yeah, and I'm just really not into chronographs, and it doesn't have a totalizer, and even if it did have a totalizer, I don't know, it's just really not my kind of watch. It just hasn't. It hasn't. What's the term? Sometimes watch collectors will say, "sing to you." I'm not gonna say that. I think that's kind of cheesy, but I just yeah, it just hasn't done it for me. It just doesn't have this strange factor that a watch may have that makes it appeal to you. So I would like to get rid of this watch actually, but maybe I need to wear it more. Maybe I just need to give it more time. In fact, maybe I'll do that. All right, so that's the Seiko collection, and then the second sub collection is the grandfather watches, and so I've got two of them here. Now there is a white dialed Timex that is back in the States. It was worked on. It was sent here. When it got here, it ran 10 minutes fast a day, and there was some just like microscopic pieces of dust on the dial that I thought really shouldn't be there post service. So I sent it back, and the guy worked on it and then sent it to my mother, and she has it and is keeping it. She's not going to send it because possibly it got knocked around during transit, and so I'll just get it next time I go back to the States. But the two that are here is the Hamilton, which is a small watch. This is a manual wind watch. Very large, comfortable crown. CLD, which stands for closed, because this is a completely closed back watch. And the selling point back in the, I want to say like 40s or 50s, I'm not really sure how old this watch is, it's pretty old though, was that the closed back made it more water resistant. So you have to go in through the crystal. And actually the other grandfather watches like that as well. So kind of a small watch. I'll just compare it to the Seiko 5. You can see. So this is probably about 34 millimeters, and so this is, a style that was popular back in the day when the rage was the smaller the better. But it looks a bit feminine these days. I still like it. I don't think I would never ever buy a watch this size, but yeah, it's just sort of a product of its era. So that was one of my grandfather's watches, my maternal grandfather, and the Wedgfield, which is it's got a day and a date, and it's automatic. In fact, I don't know if you can hear. You can hear the zip of the gears turning. It's kind of really satisfying sound. This is another watch that you have to go in through the front to work on it. And when I got these watches, I think this one was working, but yeah, it would stop. And so I had this serviced. I had the Hamilton. Hamilton was missing a hand, missing the second hand actually, so that's a replacement second hand on the Hamilton. Just, you got to do that sometimes when you get an old watch. There's no way to replace the parts on some of these old things. So grandfather watch. Okay, so that's kind of another sub collection. And then the Rolexes, and that's sort of, when I think of sort of my top tier, my good watches, that's the 3 Rolexes. If you say, what's your watch collection, I'd probably just mention the Rolexes. And so I'll go in chronological order. I got this one first, the no date sub. This is a T-serial holes, hollow end link bracelet, and tritium dial. And I did have the bezel insert replaced, so that's actually a Luminova pip, which I know, probably not the wisest thing to do, but it was nice getting that new bezel insert, but I wish Rolex had let me keep the original bezel insert. Bastards. Anyway, if I had it to do over again, I probably just would have made do with the marks on the original bezel insert. But that was sort of before I really kind of knew what I was doing. So that was the first Rolex, and then the second was sort of my what I call the beater of my Rolexes, the Explorer 2, and this is a Holes case solid end link, Swiss made, so it's got Luminova. I think it's a Y serial number. And what can I say about this watch? This is just, it's just sort of my everyday watch, and why? Well, one of the reasons is it's not as collectible as the other two Rolexes, and another reason is because during the last service I didn't have this polished. Didn't really need to polish, but I thought not yet. I just thought not yet. But it has had a polish in its past, at least one from what I gather is a third party. And so the polish, when you're looking at it, you really wouldn't know anything's up. But if you really start looking carefully, I don't think it's quite as balanced a polish as Rolex would give. I've stated in videos that I think Rolex uses machines and braces to really get even polishes, and they don't eyeball it. Sometimes you'll see footage of people giving a polish and they just are sort of running it under a polishing wheel, and I refer you to the Jewelers on Time advertisement on Archie's channel. You can see them doing it, and they're just kind of eyeballing it, just kind of working out the scuffs, and it's gonna look good afterwards, but it's not gonna be balanced like if it was clamped down in a brace and everything was sort of decided. And I'm pretty sure Rolex does that. I've heard that. So my sub was polished, and it came back just looking really, really good and really even, and I'm sort of happy with that. And so I do want to have a polish. I want to have an AD polish. I want to have a Rolex polish on this. Once I have that Rolex polish, I'm not going to get it polished anymore. It's I want one, authentic Rolex polish, and then no more polishes for it, just like no more polishes for the sub. So until then, I'm sort of living with this third party polish and living with some of the marks that were on it from the previous owner, and quite a few actually new additions that I've given to it. So that, as well as another reason why I tend to use it sort of as a beater, and just I'm very cavalier about this watch. I wear this watch like everybody should wear a watch, really, is what it is. And I swim with it. I took it to that onsen recently, and man, I swim for hours with it. I went into onsen with it. I went in the baths and the showers, and it was wet for hours and hours each day. So it's just sort of my tried and true tool watch, really, of the sort of high end ilk. And after this, and the reason I got this, I wanted a GMT hand. And I thought maybe I should get the GMT, but the prices were kind of high, and this one had the white dial, so that was sort of a nice variation between this. But after I got this, I thought I really do want the GMT Pepsi. It was one of the first Rolexes I saw when I must have been, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I knew I'd have to get one I knew I'd have to get one eventually, and so I eventually did. And so this, I just got really lucky with this piece. It's A serial. It's got hollow end links, Holes case. All of the Rolexes are Holes case. That's sort of a requirement. That's something I want. And the Luminova. And why did I get lucky with this piece? Well, prices were high when I got it, but prices shot up afterwards. And I got lucky because when I got this piece, I still didn't quite know the right questions to ask. Didn't quite have my head around the idea of polishing and whether it was a good or bad thing. And so when I got this, it was a pretty decent price. It was a little above $7,000, but I got it for 700. Sorry, 720,000 yen. I got him to knock $200 off of it, down to 720,000 yen. You can do the conversion, and it came with box, papers, and then when I had it serviced, I realized that it had never been polished. The AD told me that, and so that's was sort of just luck. It was just luck that I had gotten what is kind of close to a new old stock piece. I mean, it's been worn, and I guess if you look hard, you could probably find some sort of wear on it. There you go. There's, I think, something on the side right there. So I wouldn't call it new old stock, but it's non-polished, and that's something that I've sort of come to have a fetish over. And when I had the service, I of course said, absolutely do not polish it. And come its next service, I'm going to say the same thing, and I'll probably be on pins and needles until I get it back. And oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm just afraid that they're going to polish it, and oh, sorry about that. And what are you going to do? It's like, once you polish a piece, it's sort of like deflowered. What can you do? I mean, I could complain and have them replace the case, but then it would be a replacement case and it would be a mess. So I'm thinking of all these things like recording our conversation and giving them a letter stating that I don't want it polished, and all these over-the-top things. Anyway, I'm probably overthinking it, but yeah, I don't want to have this ever polished. So it tends to be a safe queen, but I do wear it occasionally, and I'm going to wear it soon because I want to get a Jubilee bracelet, and I'm going to have to wear it to the AD to get that Jubilee bracelet. They're going to have to take this bracelet off, make sure it is allowed to get the Jubilee bracelet. And if they have the Jubilee bracelet there, then I guess I can leave with it. Otherwise, they'll have to order it. So I'm going to do that in the next couple months. I've been waiting a long time to get it. I've just sort of been putting it off. And one of the reasons is because it's an insane purchase. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to pay $1,300+ for a bracelet. But to quote Woody Allen, the heart wants what the heart wants, and the heart wants a Jubilee bracelet. So I'm going to have to make that happen. So this is sort of these three are sort of my real, collection. And then you got everything else. So you got my first mechanical watch, the trusty Orient Plumeco, which I really like this watch, $170, and it's served me so well. It did not disappoint. It wasn't a Rolex, and I knew I wanted a Rolex. I don't think I could have gone through life loving watches as much as I do with a $170 watch, so I felt like I had to upgrade, but it's an old friend, and I couldn't get rid of it because it's sort of, I feel like a milestone, my very first mechanical watch. This is sort of what started it all. And when I got this watch, I didn't know anything about watches. I mean, I was green, and I found Andy Hunter, and he had good watches, and he had an Orient, and I thought, well, if an Orient's good enough for this Andy Hunter character, well, I think I'll go with a Orient. So Andy Hunter actually probably is responsible for me getting an Orient versus something like a Seiko or a Steinhardt or a Squally, and I'm so glad I didn't go down that road. I think even at the time I knew that I might want to go more high end, and so I wanted to keep things real, like sub $200, and that's a philosophy that has lasted. I don't believe in going $1,000. Some of these Squallies are like 900, and Steinhardt. I've come around on Steinhardt. I like them. I'll probably never get one. They're much more bang for buck than a Squally, and I think they're more honest brand. So I'm cool with Steinhardt's these days, but I just think you getting into the game can be a little bit more wise with your money than 500. Or, you know, you damn well do better than 900. And I think this is an example of that. 170, and I'm glad I don't have more money wrapped up into it, because that's money I could use on some of the Rolexes. So anyway, the Orient Blue Mako got the what do I go next? Okay, so this was a $25 Vostok. I just found it on eBay, and it was $25, and I bought it from Russia, and it's really interesting. It's kind of looks like a dress watch. I don't wear it very often. I've never really seen anything like it. I think it probably comes from the 80s. Perhaps it's Frankenwatch, and it's different sorts of pieces on it. I'm not really sure, but it's got the Buckley dial, and it's got a really nice wind, and it's sort of I know you guys are going to freak out when I say this, but it's sort of like my Calatrava. Okay, this sort of I know. All right. Yeah, that was sacrilege what I just said probably, but it it's manual wind. It's not screwed down. You just start winding it, and it's got the leather. I've actually changed this a couple times, but and it's just a very nondescript, sort of dressy looking watch, and sort of seeing my reaction to this watch makes me realize how I probably just really couldn't get into a Calatrava, because it's just stylistically this is really not my kind of watch. Leather band, and I know some Pateks are waterproof, but they might as well not be waterproof the way I would baby it. So this was, well, maybe I'll roll back that comment. This is my answer to the dress watch, and it was sort of my foray into what a dress watch would be like. And for $25, I realized I'm not really a dress watch kind of guy. So I still keep it around and wind it every now and then, but I rarely wear it. Yeah, I rarely wear this. I've got better things to do with my time than put this on my wrist, to be honest. What do we have? We've got the military watch from my mother. Now this sort of, it's not a grandfather's watch, but I could actually put this, and in fact I think I will. I'm going to start putting these together, because this is as important. Well, it's not quite as important as the grandfather watches, but this has an interesting story. The way my mother got it, and her and I and my daughters and my wife going to pick it up at the service center when we visited, and so the story of trying to get authentic parts for it, and my mother finding it and getting it, and knowing I like watches, and her doing a little research and finding out it's a military watch, and Vietnam era, and getting it working for me. And so this is sort of this is right up there with these grandfather watches in terms of sentimental value. So I would say that they go in the same group, absolutely. And what collection would be complete without a Vostok, a token Vostok? And this is the token Vostok, and it's it's got the original bracelet, and I've got another Vostok in the other room, and sitting there with the Stour, actually, which has become kind of a plaything for my daughters. Please forgive me for not including the Stour, but yeah, this is probably the prettiest of the Vostoks. I just love the blue gradient dial, and there's a submarine and a seagull flying through You know, is it the blue air on a blue sea? I mean, it's just a interesting watch, and I never wear this. It sits in a box beside my Orient Blue Mako, but it's you know, it's part of the collection. Also not included the Casios. So I feel like they're just sort of a different breed. A watch, yes, but not really something I even would conceptually include in what you're looking at. So there we go. My pretty much entire collection, and the sub collections of the Seikos, the grandfather slash mother watches, and the Rolexes. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.